All right, picture this. It's late at night, the fire's flickering, the shadows are kind of dancing just outside the light, and you're leaning in to hear a story that sounds, honestly, entirely impossible. Welcome to This Explainer. Grab your marshmallows and get comfortable, because today we are looking at one of the absolutely most spine-chilling aviation mysteries to ever break the internet. We're talking about the terrifying, totally mind-bending tale of Flight 914.
I really want you to imagine something for a second. Imagine you're boarding a plane. You've packed your bags, you've got your headphones on, you find your window seat. The plane takes off, you lean back, and you close your eyes for just a few hours. A perfectly normal nap, right? But when the wheels touch down and you wake up, it's not the same world anymore. The calendar says it is exactly 37 years later. Everyone you ever knew has aged almost 4 decades. The whole world has completely moved on, but you haven't aged a single day. I mean, it sounds exactly like the plot of a sci-fi movie, right? But for decades, people have whispered that this exact nightmare actually happened.
So, let's open the first chapter here. Section 1, The Vanishing of Flight 914.
Okay, let's dive into this. The year is 1955. It's the absolute golden age of commercial flying. Flight 914 takes off from a super bustling runway in New York, headed for warm, sunny Miami, and on board are exactly 61 souls. That's 57 passengers and 4 dedicated crew members. Just ordinary people, completely unaware that their totally routine flight was about to become the stuff of absolute legend.
But somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean, before the aircraft even got close to the Florida coast, it vanished. And when I say vanished, I mean literally into thin air. Think about how terrifying this is for a second. There was absolutely no distress call from the pilots, no mayday over the radio. There was no recorded crash. And despite massive search efforts that would normally happen for a missing commercial airliner, there was no wreckage ever found floating in the water. 1 minute, 61 people are flying south, and the next, just nothing. It's like the sky just swallowed them whole.
Which brings us to the next chapter, 37 years later.
And this brilliantly illustrates just how crazy this gets. I mean, just wrap your head around this massive 37-year dark gap from 1955 all the way to 1992. The world completely moved on. We went to the moon, the neon 80s came and went, and then, suddenly, down in Caracas, Venezuela, air traffic controllers are looking at their modern radar screens, and a blip just appears out of nowhere. An outdated 1950s-era propeller plane flying right into a modern jet-age airport. You can practically hear the horror movie tension in the control tower, right? The controllers are completely baffled. They grab the radio to hail this unidentified flying relic. The radio crackles, and a highly confused, basically panicked pilot response. His first words to the modern world, "Where are we?" He doesn't recognize the landscape, he definitely doesn't recognize the modern jets parked on the tarmac, and he certainly has no clue how he ended up in South America when he was supposed to be landing in Florida.
The air traffic controllers, trying to remain calm, give him the simple, honest truth. They reply, "You're in Caracas, Venezuela." Guys, can you imagine being that pilot? The sheer bone-chilling realization just sweeping over him. According to the legend, the pilot is completely shocked. He drops a little pocket calendar out of the window, a calendar from 1955, by the way, and realizes that the world he left behind is just gone. The reality of his situation shatters right there on the runway.
All right, moving into part 3, the phantom plane escapes. Let's move to and see how this builds, because this is the real climax of our midnight tale. The pilot, terrified of this strange futuristic world he's suddenly dropped into, makes a drastic split-second decision. First, total panic sets in. Then, instead of shutting down and getting off the plane, he violently accelerates those old propeller engines, right there on the tarmac. The controllers are literally screaming over the radio for him to stop, but he takes off, pulling the plane back up into the clouds, and just like that, it disappears forever. A second vanishing, never to be seen on any radar anywhere in the world ever again. I mean, it is the ultimate ghost plane narrative. And this unbelievable sequence of events just caught absolute fire globally. It started in old newspaper clippings, jumped over to early internet forums, and eventually exploded across places like TikTok and Reddit. Because let's be real, people love a good glitch in the matrix, right? It totally solidified its place as one of the world's biggest internet mysteries. Okay, part 4. Let's turn on the flashlight here. We just went on an incredible ride, but I have to ask you directly, is any of this actually real? I know it's super fun to get wrapped up in the myth, but here in this explainer, Our job is to dig into the actual source material. When we take away the spooky campfire vibes and the viral internet hype, what does the cold, hard data actually tell us about Flight 914? Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the wild myth contrasts with the actual evidence. The viral legend gives us exact dates, dramatic quotes, and little calendar drops. But the stark reality? There is zero official aviation record of Flight 914 ever disappearing. I'm talking no government reports, no airline documents, not a single verified witness account from a grieving family member. Look, in aviation, a missing plane leaves a massive, undeniable paper trail. But here, absolute, total silence. So that brings us to our final section, Anatomy of an Internet Hoax. So the crucial point is that the foundational evidence everyone always points to online, that famous old newspaper clipping that's constantly reshared on social media, well, it's been traced back to a notorious tabloid. We're talking about a publication famous for printing totally fictional, sensationalized stories about alien abductions and Bigfoot. It was literally written as entertainment fiction, not actual news, completely fabricated. But you gotta wonder, why does it survive? Why do people on TikTok still believe it today? Well, experts say it's because the story is a masterclass in viral engineering. It literally tricks our brains. It taps into our deep fear of the unknown, our total obsession with the what-if of time travel, and it grounds the whole thing in commercial flying, something we all do but kinda silently fear going wrong. Mix those three elements together and you've got a fictional story our brains actually want to believe. It really is a testament to the power of a good campfire story, even in our digital age. We're probably never going to stop hearing about Flight 914, even though the evidence proves it's just one of the greatest internet hoaxes ever created. But before we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a lingering chill. Be totally honest with yourself for a second. Would you board your next flight if there was even a 1% chance this time warp story was actually true? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And hey, if you love investigating the truth behind wild mysteries and breaking down strange sources, hit that subscribe button. The next explainer might just be even stranger. Thanks for hanging out with us.